Hello, everyone. This PaRiNormal episode number, whatever. I need to start making a better account of the number I'm on. Not that it so much matters. But anyway, I'm going to start off kind of vape related only because my partner, my co host, is having technical difficulties. So I don't want to get too far ahead into it and then, him be lost or whatever. Plus, there are some things that I want to catch up on, whatever. So I figured I'd talk about that now, since I don't really do too many shows during the week, nowadays anyway. So I do have some juice reviews coming up. I was actually planning on doing it, I think Thursday night. Didn't end up doing it. But it's going to be on the Halcyon Haze ELIQUIDs. I think I've shown this on some video. I don't remember which, but they sent these to me a little bit ago. So I need to do these for all you European vapors, like in the UK. This would be nice for you because they're a UK brand. It's also more suited for new vapors that are using like older tanks, like Pro Tank 2, stuff like that. So I guess just a little bit of variety, since most reviews these days are geared towards people with high VG and stuff like that, which is what I vape. These are 50-50, which might be a struggle. I don't know. I have tried these once, just very briefly, and there were a couple of good ones that really stood out to me. But I'll get into that in a review. I'll probably do 2 parts to it because there are 7 flavors. And I don't know how the 50-50 is going to affect me because I do have a PG sensitivity. So I'll probably just do at least or up to 4. I actually have like my setups done, ready for them to go. So it's just a matter of actually recording it. But that is on the way. Then I did get 2 e-liquids from a different place, one of which I don't think I have over here because I think it's still over there. Yeah, it's by Alloy Blends. This is the donut one. And the other one is a strawberry yogurt, or not strawberry yogurt, a pineapple yogurt smoothie or something like that. I have tried both of those as well, and they're not bad. So I will get more into that when I do the review. Then I still need to do the Malik ones, which I've talked about a couple of times because these particular flavors I have not done a review on because I was sent the wrong strength initially. Also have tried all of these, and at least 2 of them I like quite a bit. So I have those on the way, and a lot of hardware to review, but since I'm not really super technical with like hardware reviews, I don't know how I feel about them. Like, I do them anyway, just to let you guys know how I like it or if I don't like it. But I don't know. I feel like there's enough technical videos out there that I don't need to try to do something I'm not very good at. So anyway, I think that's about it as far as that. Oh, and I did get some, it's called White House e-liquids. So I have those as well. There's 5 different flavors. I tried a couple of them last night because I got it yesterday, and I was actually surprised. So those are 75 VG, 25 PG, so that's nice. So the only ones that are like higher in PG that I prefer is the Halcyon, which I knew when I agreed to it. But since they are a UK brand, I figured it'd be interesting. Plus, I've tried a clone of Gin's Addiction, which is one of their flavors, and I really liked it, even though it's typically not on my profile because it's like an anise. I forget what the other flavors are, but it's got anise, lemon, and some other stuff in it, which I'm not huge on anise, but I liked the clone of it, so I figured I'd really want to try, the real thing. So that I plan on being my next actual review. So hello, the couple people that are over there. I guess I'm going to just start talking about the little bit of research I did on, because this is supposed to be like on haunted battlefields, but I had mentioned previously that I didn't know how I was going to incorporate that into an actual PaRiNormal show type deal, because it's more of like a visual thing, or if you've had personal experiences at one. I've never been to a battlefield, let alone like a haunted one, so I don't know. I can't really make it interesting, I guess. I don't know. Like I said, it's hard to describe or explain like in a video like this. So I did put a couple links below of some things on YouTube I found just briefly. There were like some other ones, but I didn't really care for them. One in particular shows a figure, and I don't know if it's real. It's really fucked up because it's actually really pretty clear for like an apparition type thing. And I don't know, because like there was like a couple other ones, because it was in like a playlist. If you YouTube search haunted battlefields, it's one of the things that comes up. It's like 25 videos in a playlist, and there were a couple of other ones that had like apparitions on them, but to me they were clearly fake. Like the one was like looping, like it would be like the same figure like crouching, then it'd move, and then it'd be crouching, and then it'd move. So it was like, I don't know, it looked too clear, which I know is like messed up that you have to put things into terms like that, like, oh, footage is too good, it can't be real. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people making falsified documents and falsified video evidence, stuff like that. So unfortunately, you do have to be a little bit discerning, and I personally wasn't impressed with the other ones, but the one I put below was pretty compelling to me and pretty interesting. So yes, anise is a black licorice type flavor. Some people say there's a good difference. I personally, I don't taste a difference. Like if something is anise, it just tastes like black licorice to me. So I don't know. But yeah. So I did a little bit of evidence or research on certain battlefields and stuff like that. So I guess I can talk about a couple of the ones that I found and like the events that happened supposedly as a result of all the mass deaths that happened at that one place. The first one was Pennsylvania Hall, which is, I guess, near like the Gettysburg battle or whatever. And that story is below, because I'm sure I'm probably going to butcher it. But essentially, there was these two women in an elevator, and I guess they pushed like the one floor, but instead of going to that particular floor, it actually went down to the basement, which was already kind of like caught their attention, because like, why is it going to the basement? That's not what we were trying to do. So when they get to the basement and the doors open, it's not like it's supposed to look. Like, I guess it's just supposed to look like a, you know, like furnace room type situation. And instead of that, they basically witnessed like a medic and like all these injured soldiers, and I guess like they had just gotten back from like a battle or something, and it was like really frantic, and there was like screaming and all this crazy stuff. But basically it was almost like they time warped, because they were seeing what had happened in the past. And the weird thing about it is the like head medic guy looked at them and pointed at them, so he like saw them, which I thought was interesting, because a lot of times, especially with these battlefield type situations, they're not really that interactive. It's more of just like a residual like imprint that's left because of all the traumatic things that have happened there. But this one interacted with them, and it could be just coincidence that maybe someone in real life, like when it was happening, happened to be at that place and he was pointing at them. But I doubt that. But at the same time, it makes as much sense as him being able to see them in an elevator, because you would think that would be kind of alarming to see people coming out of a box, because, you know, they didn't have elevators back then, because the Battle of Gettysburg was, I'm going to say, in the 1800s. I'm not good in history, and since I was reading about a lot of different battles, I don't remember offhand which one it was, like as far as like the dates were. But it was a while ago, so they didn't have elevators back then, so you'd think that would be alarming. I don't know. It was weird. Very interesting story. But so that's something that happened there. And then Gettysburg it was like the most popular result that came up when searching haunted battlefields. Even on the one video where it was like top 10, it was number 1 just because of how many deaths have happened there. And I don't know. It's just had the most accounted experiences and most compelling, and I don't know. It's I guess really, really haunted. And I think Fresh said that he went there and he said it did have like a strange vibe to it. But the thing with those type of situations where you know something bad happened there, it's like, is the weird feeling that you feel yourself psyching yourself out? Because I know with me, like, I freak myself out pretty easily. That's why I can't watch crazy stuff before I go to bed, because then I'm just like freaking out and I can't sleep. So if I do watch like paranormal stuff or listen to paranormal stuff, I make sure I do it, or I try to do it, as far away from like when I'm sleeping or planning on sleeping as possible, because otherwise I have enough issues sleeping. I don't need more. But I know I would psych myself out. So I don't know. It could be one of those situations, without being there myself, going there myself. And even then, like I said, unless I were to see something, I don't know, I'd probably just be freaking myself out. So another one was a place called Antiem Creek. I don't know how they pronounced it. But here, people have heard gunshots, like phantom gunshots. And the interesting thing I found about this was like all of like anywhere that was surrounding where this creek was, where this battle happened, every like town, whatever was surrounding it, has experiences too. Like it's just an overly active area that surrounds like the whole part of the creek or whatever. Another one was Little Bighorn, and a lot of people there experience, if they go visit, a lot of sorrow and loss, just like hitting them out of nowhere. And which it makes sense, because what happened there, which any battlefield is going to have a lot of negative energy, with you would think, just because of a lot of people died there, and especially back then, it was probably really horrific. So I don't know, I guess if have any kind of empathy, you're probably going to feel something like that. But also some people experience visions, which I guess is kind of similar to the women in the elevator, where they're actually seeing kind of like back in time, like things that have happened back then, like parts of the battle going on still, things like that. So I thought that was interesting. Something similar to that was Cannoli. I'm probably butchering these names, but this happened with Roman soldiers. So it was like out of the country. And where the specific battle happened, people claim to see like the guards of the Romans, like Roman guards, patrolling just like randomly, like at night. And the superstition behind that is, if the guards see you, then you will be beheaded by midnight. Ooh, I wonder if that's ever happened. Marsaglia. This one, again, was interesting because instead of because it was a battle there as well from way back in the day, instead of being haunted by soldiers, it was actually haunted by horses, like the horses that the soldiers were riding on during battle. So I haven't really heard that one too much. Stalingrad was related to like the Nazis, and around here, all of the suburbs surrounding that area or in that area supposedly have like a whole, like the whole town or whatever it's just like a town of ghosts. Like they're going on their business, like they don't know they're dead. So that to me more so sounds again like a residual type thing, where it's just you're looking back in time, because they say that what they're seeing is from way back then, and like I think again it's like the 1800s, something like that, early 1900s. So to me that's like a time ripple, whatever. Anyway, I think this one's the last one. This was Taunton, whatever. 28,000 people died, and supposedly once every 7 years during a snowstorm, people, like if it's like a really bad storm, they will see like the two armies battling for hours, for 3 hours and 12 minutes, which is weird. Like that's a long kind of time slip, if it is a time slip. And if it is like just like some kind of haunting, like that's a long time, like a consistent, no breaking up of time, like just solid 3 hours and 12 minutes of, you know, like a event, I guess you would call it. I guess so. I lied. So Stony Creek, I meant to, or no, it was Cold Harbor. There it is. 7,000 men died within like, I think they said 24 hours. Like it was like a lot in just like a very small amount of time. And a lot of people experience like just like the typical type stuff, like the voices and gunshot, all that kind of stuff. But the thing that was most compelling, or not compelling, but interesting to me, was every night at 1 a.m., this strange blue fog appears. Regardless of like how hot it is, whatever, it's always there, and it's always like 1 o'clock. And I don't know if I put the video down below where she was talking about it, but if you go YouTube search the 25 haunted things, it's like the first video, I think. Well, this lady went there because, you know, she'd heard these stories about the fog and all this other stuff. So she decided she was going to go and see for herself. So she did find like a couple of weird things that happened before the fog, but like she was hearing somebody following them, like footsteps behind them, the crunching of like leaves and stuff like that. I think she kept running into cold spots. I don't remember if she saw any like apparitions or anything, but I think she did get a lot of orbs, which orbs to me, especially in pictures, they don't really mean much to me, but I don't know, they were compelling to her. But the thing that was interesting is as they were walking along, out of nowhere, just like this kind of bluish fog just like covered the whole area, and it kind of like materialized out of nowhere. It's not like it was just like slowly building. It was just kind of like, ooh, it was there. And when she happened to look at her watch, it was 1 o'clock, and she actually did take I think it was pictures. I don't think it was a video, but she put in the pictures of like the fog while she was there, and there's the orbs were there too. But I thought that was very interesting. So that's what I found. They did mention Stony Creek, which was the battle in Canada, but there was nothing really that stood out, and I couldn't really find too much as far as like individual experiences about it. But it was just like a lot of the typical stuff, you know, gunfire, screaming, seeing soldiers every now and then, but nothing too out of the ordinary. I mean, they're all pretty much a lot of the same stuff. So some things I was thinking about while listening and reading some of this stuff was, I forget which one it was. I think it was it Gettysburg? Yeah, it was Gettysburg. One of the reasons they think it's so haunted, outside of just how many people died there, is the fact, and I don't know if this is a fact or not, so I guess I probably shouldn't the fact. The thing that I heard is that the bodies, and I don't know if it was just like for everywhere or just one specific spot, but the bodies weren't able to be removed for 7 years. So after these soldiers died on the battlefield, their bodies weren't able to be removed and properly buried for 7 years. That's crazy. You know, you hear a lot about, you know, improper burials and how that can trigger hauntings and activity, stuff like that. So I was thinking, and this may or may not be ST motherfucker. Anyway, this may or may not be like an original idea. I don't think that I've ever heard anybody talk about it. It may just be common sense. I don't really know. It's something that kind of popped into my head when I was thinking about that. So, and I'm not saying that I personally don't even really believe that any or the majority of hauntings that happen are legitimately dead people, like their spirits lingering. I don't really know that I don't know that I believe that, but if that were a thing, and if some of these hauntings or the spirits being left behind, unfinished business type situation, if they're here because they weren't properly buried, it kind of makes sense because, you know, I think most people would agree that if you think you have a soul, which I do think there's something besides our physical body that makes us us. But if you believe in a soul or a spirit or whatever you want to call it, most would agree that it's energy. It's, you know, electric pulses, whatever. So it kind of makes sense that if your body wasn't buried and that energy was able to disperse maybe within the soil and things like that, so you become, you know, like more of a, I guess it's more assuring, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I'm not dead, so I don't know. But like, at least like if you're in the ground, you have the opportunity to be turned into something else. Like you could come back as grass or whatever. That's if you don't believe in reincarnation, which I don't know if I do or don't. I'm kind of undecided there. But at least your energy is being recycled in a more effective manner. If you're not buried and you're on top of the ground, like never buried, or just it takes a while and your energy doesn't have time to disperse into the ground, like I don't really know how, I don't know how that works, but it makes sense, that it makes more sense to me of why that spirit would feel I guess unattached to wherever they're supposed to be. I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever. It made more sense in my head, but a lot of times I have issues trying to get what's in my head out verbally. But I think you kind of understand what I'm saying. Whether or not you agree with it is up to you. I just thought that kind of made more sense to me. It kind of like makes sense as to why that would happen to a spirit or whatever. Anyway, so moving on, since I didn't figure that would take a lot of time to get through, because again, I don't really know how to talk about that kind of material without like showing pictures and stuff like that, and I don't want to get flagged with copyright. I don't know how all that works, and I don't like sharing other people's stuff without their permission. So that's why I just linked them down below. You can check them out on your own time if you choose to. But I figure we could talk about some explanations of what causes hauntings to begin with. Because obviously, like if you're in a battlefield type situation, most people would agree if it's haunted, it's probably because of the release of energy. Because you have a traumatic event like that, a lot of energy is going to be released, whether it be negative or positive, which is, you know, negative, but it seems like any kind of big burst of energy tends to be active for one reason or another. So I was doing some reading and everything about what the possible causes of hauntings are, explanations of apparitions that people see. The one site, and I don't remember which one it was, but it listed like 8 or 10. I didn't really agree with like half of them, so I only wrote, well, 3, because some of them were just kind of like 1, common sense, or 2, just like, I don't know, I didn't agree with them, so I just didn't write them down. So that's kind of like how I deal with things. But one of the things that I found particularly interesting was the explanation of apparitions being just parts of your brain that are stimulated that typically aren't, thus kind of creating kind of a hallucinogenic effect. So in reality, there's really nothing there. It's just for whatever reason, electric pulses are hitting places where it shouldn't, and therefore causing you to see things that aren't there. Which there was like at least one study. I've heard other studies that have been done mainly for alien abductions, which I'll get to that in a minute. But in this particular one that they cited in this article, it said that there was a test done where scientists stimulated parts of the brain. I think it was the left temporal lobe, if I remember correctly, and they were able to induce ghost-like apparitions and experiences, as well as alien abductions. And I had read in the past that this has been done because, you know, a lot of people with like sleep terror, stuff like that, if they do sleep studies and stuff like that, they had found that there was unusual brain activity at the time of the sighting. And there's actually this thing, it's called the God helmet for like layman's terms. I don't remember the technical term for it because it was like, I think some German guy It started with a G that I can't pronounce the name, but they nicknamed it the God helmet. And essentially it's supposed to cut off your sight and your hearing to enable you to better focus on other things. Like there's like no stimuli. So it's supposed to induce, or not really induce, but it's supposed to leave you more in tune to like experiences. And when people experience that, when they're in the God helmet, a lot of them do start hearing things and seeing things. And there's argument: are those things really there, or is it a trick of the mind to keep you stimulated because you're not getting the outside stimulation? So I don't know. I find it very interesting. I personally don't think a God helmet is going to make you see ghosts or hear ghosts, but that's just my personal opinion. But it's still interesting whether or not I agree with it. So they were also talking about in the article about, inducing, paranormal activity and sightings and stuff like that by stimulating the brain. Is this what is happening to people with psychosis, specifically schizophrenia? Is it because these parts of the brain are being stimulated? So it's not so much that they're mentally unstable or anything like that. I don't really know how that works, so don't get offended. I'm not a psychologist, but it's not so much like that. It's more so that for whatever reason, parts of their brain that shouldn't be stimulated are. But I don't know. I don't know much about the brain because it's very, very, very intricate and complex. And honestly, I don't really think anybody knows that much about it because it's just too complex. So the second explanation of paranormal activity, stuff like that, is infrasound. I don't think I've ever heard of infrasound, at least not in that language, like that word. But it's basically sound so low that the human ear can't detect it, but you can still feel the vibration of it. So essentially, I guess your body doesn't know how to comprehend it because it's there, but not at the same time. So it's kind of like inducing like the weird goosebump feeling or feeling of being watched. It could be the cause of stuff like that. And infrasound is caused by just weather, storms, wind, just natural causes. But that is an interesting theory. The third one was, I don't know how to say this. It's not even that hard of a word, but automatism. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's basically the result of an overworked brain, especially in times of meditative behavior. So I guess that would kind of be what I was just trying to describe with the whole God helmet thing, is that basically it's just trying to fill in blanks where there's gaps, which our brain is known to do that. Because I'm sure you've seen the posts that people write on Facebook where it's like, tag this person, whatever. It's like reposted 5 billion times. But it's like these paragraphs, which if you actually read them, like letter by letter, they make no sense. But because the first and the last letters are legit and all the inner parts of the word are scrambled, your brain just deciphers it. Like the first couple words might kind of like flip you over, what the fuck? Might trip you out a little bit, but the more you read, it's just like, it's not even scrambled because your brain just decodes it and becomes used to it. It just fills in the gaps that are there. It's just what we do. So it could be stuff like that. I don't know. I'm totally not reading this thing over here. Thank you, Travis. I know I'm like completely ADD, but I feel bad because the chat is getting longer and longer and I'm not paying any attention to it. Luckily, I haven't come across too many assholes yet. I'm sure it's to come because I've been getting more and more assholes just in general. So I imagine it just comes with the territory. The more people that subscribe to you for whatever reason, which doesn't make sense to me, but the more trolls that you get. I didn't know today was the Beltane. I've never heard of it. Yep, I agree, Isleys. Most religious holidays are tied to pagan holidays. And that's actually something I was listening to. Someone was talking about that. I think it was last week. It's this guy that I've been watching recently. He is into witchcraft. I haven't been watching him super, super long because I just happened to come across his channel randomly. So I don't know a whole lot about, himself, like his history, his past, like what exactly he considers himself. I don't know if he considers himself a Wiccan or a witch. I don't know. But he does do witchcraft and stuff like that. Not in a bad way, like sacrificing anything, just more naturalistic Wiccan type stuff. And he was talking about how I forgot how we got on the topic of it, but the subject came up about holidays and how pretty much when they came from England, they kind of just got rid of all the pagan holidays and just turned them into, the holidays that we have now. So I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but it's just what humans do. Oh, we're having a Christian argument. All right. I'm not sure what you mean, Iselize, about the fear of the spirit world. I don't really have fear of the spirit world. I have fear of dying. And it's not really so much the fear of dying per se. It's the fear of non-existence is what terrifies me. Yeah, I'm not saying that I don't believe in orbs. I don't believe in orbs in photos. I would say 98% of orbs in photos, at least that I've seen, they're just light reflections, bugs, stuff like that. I've seen a couple of video of orbs that were compelling, but unfortunately, if you're not there to see it and know exactly what went on, and I don't like being one of those people that, I have to see it to believe it, but unfortunately, there's just too many people that like to doctor things. And part of it's part of the whole disinformation type deal where they're trying to make the paranormal laughable so people don't take it seriously and don't believe in it. Kind of just trying to dispel everything. But, and then there's just part that want attention. There's part that just want to be assholes. You can't believe everything that you see. So that's why I just don't. It's funny. UFO is being used for educational purposes. It does matter if it still matters if you don't monetize, because Fresh doesn't monetize his videos, and he's still been flagged for music, stuff like that. There's at least 2 different videos he was flagged for. Ironically, was the one with Thesis on there. He played some of his music, which still doesn't make sense to me. It's like, how... I don't know how that works. So I don't know if somebody that knew his music flagged it, or there's just like some randomizer and music that he wrote was similar to what they had on file for something else and it flagged it. I don't know what happened, but that show was flagged. And then one of the shows where he had some kind of TV program in the background, it got flagged because you can hear it. So it doesn't matter if you're monetized. There must be a loophole for it though, because I've seen people that use footage from, music. Like there's a fairly popular YouTuber. She doesn't really do anything. She's basically just very controversial, and that's why people watch her. But she was doing or dance videos for a while where she was dancing to popular music, Britney Spears, Shakira, some other stuff. Like, people that most people know. And she was playing the music, and it was longer than the 15 seconds you're allowed. It was like at least a minute or two every single time, sometimes longer. So it's like, how the fuck doesn't she get flagged? And I know for damn sure she monetizes her shit, because that's all she does for a living is her videos. So I don't know, I just find it hard to believe that she would put out those videos and not monetize it, because it's pretty much why she does videos. But I don't know, there must be some way around it. I don't know if you have to be like an affiliate of something, or like a not partner, because nowadays everybody's a YouTube partner, but like in those, like where you have managers and shit. I don't know. I don't have one. Every now and then I get emails asking if I want to join some partnership with a certain company for YouTube, and it's like, no. Like, you don't even know what I do. You even know what I do? Like, you know the content that I make sometimes? I don't think you want to be a part of that. Anyway. All right, so I'm just trying to catch up. So I'm like way behind. Anyway, okay, so I think I'm pretty much caught up. So those are the 3 explanations I found that were interesting regarding like paranormal happenings, like what causes them, like in as far as scientific reasons. And I'm not saying that that's the cause of every encounter or anything like that, but I think at least some of them could be explained away by those things, and people just don't know about them. They've never heard of them, and their brain just makes them freak out and think irrationally, because it's typically what people do when they freak out, is just turn all their rationality out the window. I don't I don't really remember how I reacted. It's like, honestly, with me, because you know, I've told people, well, by now most of you hopefully have seen and listened to all the experiences that I've had, because I did a playlist on my separate channel that I don't really do anything with anymore, just basically for those videos. Otherwise I probably would have taken it down. But there are playlists over there, so if you're not familiar with every like paranormal experience that's happened to me, I actually have everything over there broken down pretty much by like where I lived or was at the time, because it just made the most sense, because my sense of time is not super great. Like, my frame of reference is messed up, like especially ever since high school, because at least when I was in school, I would associate it with the grade of school I was in. It was pretty easy for me to remember. But as far as like years, like 1999, whatever, I just never really tied them down to like a year. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyway, I did the video journal basically of everything that's happened to me paranormal wise. Number one, because I wanted people to know, my experiences, see if were anything similar to that. Because there are some things that have happened to me that I don't really see all that much, either on forums, because I'm on forums a lot, especially this one lately, the No Sleep forum. I'm on there all the freaking time. Mind you, some of those stories are fiction. People just making like creepy pastas, which I don't like. I wish they would just leave it for people that really are legitimately saying messed up stuff that's happened to them. But I still find it interesting nonetheless. And there's a couple of things that I've had happen to me that I haven't seen, so they don't seem all that common. They don't seem all that common. So it'd be nice to hear, if other people have had similar things that have happened to them. What are you talking about, Monkey? Monkey, if you came here to troll, don't. Anyway. So the second part is mostly causes of actual like hauntings, like if there is actually a spirit there, what would cause it. So less scientific, more other, but basically thing with poltergeist that I've seen similarities with is most of the people that have these poltergeist experiences or have poltergeist activity, they are either adolescent themselves or have adolescents living with them, specifically females. It just seems to, I don't know if it triggers or just feeds the activity. I'm not sure, but it's kind of speculated to basically be because the hormones are higher at adolescence and the brain activity is different than it is, you know, before and after that period of time, which I can kind of account for because during that time for me was when pretty much everything started. So it kind of did ring true to me, but I had like basically 2 periods of high activity, and the second time I wasn't around anybody, especially where most of the activity was taking place when all this stuff was happening. So, you know, it doesn't account for every, you know, bit of activity or whatever, but I do think there's a lot of credibility in that if people legitimately are, you know, experiencing poltergeist activity, which if you're not really, my throat's really dry. If you don't know what it is or not very familiar, basically poltergeist activity is more like physical things, like things being moved, being touched, shoved, that kind of thing. The other explanation for those types of events are high stress, which again kind of correlates with the whole elevated brain activity level type things. Anyway, the third one is telekinesis, which again can either be more of like a natural thing or it could be triggered by high stress. I don't really know that I necessarily believe in telekinesis per se. I think maybe to a degree it's possible, but not like in the movies or anything like that. But I think it could explain, you know, people experiencing things moving around them and stuff like that. So that was something I found. Also, I tried to do more research on this, but the Google was not my friend that day. But another explanation of why certain areas are more active than others, outside of like deaths that have happened there, is basically the ground that it's on. If it's high in mineral deposits or near a source of water, like natural water, it seems to really be conducive to what the fuck is here? Conducive to, you know, paranormal activity, events, stuff like that. And again, that has rung true to me. And yeah, like my previous friend, my former best friend that I had talked about several times, where her house was really messed up, and that was like the most active house that I had ever been in. I told you every time the dogs just fucking flipping out. Haven't heard them bark all day. Oh my god. Anyway, so my former best friend, she lived number one right next to a trailer park, a nature park, like literally like half a block. There was just nothing but nature park all along the house block. So she had that going on, which also had a creek. And I want to say that we did do some research back in the day, but I don't know 100%. My memory is not that great. But I think around where she lives is rich with, I want to say, quartz and or limestone, which are both kind of tied into like supposedly being good conductors for activity. I don't know, but her house was fucked up. So anyway, paranoia, again, that the whole just tricking yourself, scaring yourself, which is something that I found out over time that for whatever reason I like doing. I mean, there's really no other explanation for the things that I impose on myself, especially at the times that I do it, there's nothing else that makes sense other than I must like to scare the shit out of myself. I don't really know. It doesn't make sense to me. You would think I wouldn't like that, but I think it's like maybe an adrenaline type thing. So I don't know. But your mind can play a lot of tricks on you. Like yesterday, I forget why I was on edge or whatever, but I had thought I saw something out of the corner of my eye. And I was already kind of like paranoid for whatever reason, but I had thought I had seen something, but it was nothing. It was just me freaking myself out. So that's another explanation. This one, I don't really agree with too much. It's up to you what you believe in. A lot of it does kind of have ties into religion or your spiritual beliefs, but a lot of people think that, you know, seances, summoning type things can invite spirits in and other energies in. I don't know. Anything's possible, but I just, number one, and I guess it's probably important to go over, I've said this before, I don't necessarily think that ghosts or what people think or consider as ghosts are actually dead spirits. I think a lot of them are just residual energy or time slips, like you're just seeing back into that time period for whatever reason, or time is overlapping. I don't know how all that works, but a lot of ghosts aren't very interactive. They don't even notice you. They don't pay any attention to you. I'm sure a lot of the shows on TV have people accounting for such things, but you gotta understand that TV is dramatized. You know, if everything was exactly the way it is in real life, no one would probably watch it, because for most people, real life is boring and people don't want to be bored. They want to be entertained. So a lot of things are over dramatized, and people sometimes just like to be over dramatic for whatever reason anyway. So between those two things, I don't know. I think that the whole notion of dead spirits haunting people are way overblown. I don't know what the right word is. I just don't think they're as common as people are made to believe. I think most of them are just residual type things, time distortions, something like that. I'm not even convinced that, like, it would take something really compelling for me to say, oh yeah, okay, that may be a dead person. Like if that person specifically knows things about you that you don't even know yourself, then I'm like, okay, well, what other explanation is there? Because like if a dead spirit of a relative or somebody you know comes to you and they tell you something that you already know, so to you that might be validation, but to me, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you're grieving, you're probably just very distressed, and the idea of seeing your loved one is a comfort, and to further justify it and validate it for you, they're telling you things that make them feel like they're the real person, but it's really just your mind trying to console you. And again, I don't I don't want to discredit anybody if, you know, it's something like that's happened to them. You know, whatever you believe is what you believe. I just think a lot of times it's just people's minds just fucking with them, and you know, you just have to think about it logically. Probably not at that time. There's a lot of things that have happened to me. I went into it a little bit. I started to get into it, and then I lost my train of thought. But when things would happen to me, I typically just freeze. I don't really scream. Like, I've never been like in the scary movies how like the girl just screams and like runs. I just freeze. That's like it's like my instinct, which probably isn't the best instinct to freeze. Running would probably be better in scary type situations, but I just freeze because my brain just can't process what's going on, because the scarier stuff that happened to me, I was trying to rationalize it at the time, like, okay, what can this be like in reality other than what I think it is right now? And I wasn't able to come up with anything, and the idea of that scared the shit out of me to the point where I didn't know how to function. All I could do was just watch and just be frozen for a minute. So that's how I dealt with my things. But I don't know, everybody deals with things differently. So seems like Yeti is not going to be on here. I've seen him pop up and disappear a couple of times now. I'm pretty much out of the material that I had. And again, I apologize. Like, there was a particular person that had requested me to do a kind of video on haunted battlefields and stuff like that. I didn't know how to format it into like a video type discussion. Like, it didn't really fit a format as far as that goes. Like, I don't know how to do that.